Welcome back. All right, so as we continue to get closer to the deadline, I'm going to try to get the teams wrapped up that I haven't already got done over the next few days. We're going to talk about Minnesota here. The Minnesota Wild are in an interesting position. We talk a lot about Toronto and their need to get out of the first round. We talk about Colorado, their need to get out of the second round. Florida's need to get out of the first round. All of this wonderful stuff, right? Minnesota needs to go on a bit of a run. So right now, if you're looking at deadline cap space, according to Cap Friendly, they have $10,551,380, and they're accruing more and more as days go by due to injury, due to players that are not on their roster, who they've. Rask has been waived, right? So the deadline cap space is going up a bit, so they'll have room there to make some additions. The pressure's on. I think this year, because there's a lot of excitement around Minnesota. They're currently 31-16-3, but they're third in the Central. So if the playoffs started today, they're 5 points back at St. Louis. They would be playing in St. Louis, and that'd be their round one matchup. And I don't know that I'd take them over St. Louis. St. Louis is a very well-run team that's shown as recently as 2019 what they're able to do. And playoff time, I don't know. Minnesota, I just don't know that I can see them going on a long run. 2003, they made it to the conference final. The next year, they missed the playoffs. The next time they made the playoffs was 2007. They lost in the first round to Anaheim. 2008, they lost in the first round to Colorado. And then Chicago became this wall for them. 2013, they lost in round one against them. 2014 and 2015, they lost in the second round against them. 2016, they lose in the first round to Dallas. 2017, first round against St. Louis. 2018, first round against Winnipeg. 2020, they lose in the qualifying round to Vancouver. Did not technically make it into the first round that year. 2021, they lose in the first round against Vegas. So while they had it was a really good series between them and Vegas, they still end up losing the series. So we look at their lineup. This is a very deep, strong forward group. You've got Kaprizov, Hartman, Zuccarello. This line's been fantastic. This is one time where daily face-off in their line combinations pretty darn close. And again, there's some teams that really shake up their lines regularly, right? Minnesota doesn't as much unless they're losing, and then Evason will kind of put them in a blender. So Kaprizov, 24 goals, 39 assists, 63 points. He's the real deal. He's the biggest superstar Minnesota's had since the heyday of Marian Gaborik. Hartman, 19 goals, 18 assists, 37 points. Having a career year. Best year he's had ever. Zuccarello might be having a career year too. 17 goals, 36 assists, 53 points. And it's important to strike while the iron's hot, right? You do not know if next year this line's going to all work again or what's going to happen. Kevin Fiala, 17 goals, 27 assists, 44 points. He's a restricted free agent this offseason. Freddie Gaudreau, 7 goals, 15 assists, 22 points. Who knew that Freddie Gaudreau would end up playing an important role on this team at the start of the year? And Matthew Boldy has been sensational. 19 games, 8 goals, 10 assists, 18 points. This rookie class is fantastic. I don't even have Rossi on the board. Rossi's up and coming, and hopefully he makes it onto the roster next year. Duhaime has been quite the find as well. 6 goals, 8 assists, provides some physicality, and he's got some offense there too, along with being able to drop the gloves. Joel Eriksson Ek, I should say, 16 goals, 12 assists, 28 points. He has followed up the year he had last year very nicely. And then you've got Marcus Foligno with 17 goals, 10 assists, 27 points. Remarkable 3 lines there. This is a team that can hurt you and can score in a way that a lot of the other teams that lose in round 1 or round 2 here could not. And then you've got Dewar, 2 goals, 3 assists since he came up. He's a restricted free agent this offseason. Nico Sturm, 8 goals, 8 assists. I'm a fan of his. He's a UFA this summer. He's very good. And Bukestad's a UFA. He's missed time with injury. The games he's played, he's had 5 goals, 4 assists for 9 points. So there are some definite strengths to this roster, and this is without Greenway, who's currently injured, 4 goals, 10 assists, his 14 points falling in. And the funny thing is, Greenway's not had a great year. The 4 goals is well below what would have been expected, but it doesn't matter because they're getting all the scoring from everywhere else. So Greenway can go out and play the physical game and play the defensive game, and as long as he's doing that well, it's fine. His lack of offense isn't hurting them. And then there's Victor Rask, who got waived. He's a UFA this summer. 5 goals, 8 assists. If you have an injury here, you can put Rask back into the lineup without hurting things too much, right? So that's good. They have that depth. And then you get into the blue line. You got Goligoski, who's having a fantastic year. 2 goals, 23 assists for him. He's a UFA this summer, unless, of course, Minnesota decides to re-sign him. Spurgeon, 5 goals, 5 assists, 5 goals, 15 assists, I should say, for him for 20 points. Very important player. Yes, he's underrated by people who don't watch him, but he's excellent. Brodin, 3 goals, 17 assists for him. Kulikov, 4 goals, 13 assists. And John Merrill has resurrected his career in Minnesota. 4 goals, 12 assists for him. He's fit in very, very well. Jordy Ben, who's a UFA this summer, a goal and 3 assists. In relief, as Dumba is out right now, he has 4 goals, 16 assists, 20 points. Once Dumba's healthy and back in, this is one of the better top 6s in, I'd say, the entire league. And then in goal, that's where the questions start to come up for me with the Minnesota Wild. So you have Talbot, 19-11-1, but a .910 save percentage. Feels like his save percentage, his overall numbers have been dropping as the year's gone along. Kakkonen, on the other hand, who is an RFA this summer, 12-5-2 with a .917 save percentage. And Kakkonen, I think, over the last 2 months has been the better of the 2 goaltenders. The question then becomes one of, all right, this is a team that needs to make a run this year of some sort. This is a fan base that is tired of losing in the first round every year since 2015, and they're tired of not making it out of the second round since 2003. So you have to give them some hope for the future. Is Talbot the guy? Is Kakkonen the guy? And if neither of them are a goaltender that you have a lot of faith in to go through 4 rounds of the playoffs, what options do you have? The reality is there may not be any. And it's weird because Talbot was in the All-Star game, belonged in the All-Star game, but his numbers have started to take a bit of a dive here. Kalen Addison as well on the blue line, some depth here. I have him on the board, 12 games, 2 goals, 1 assist. There are other fill-ins I don't have up, like Rao, and a few others, who can step in. I think this might be the best depth that I've ever seen Minnesota have. Definitely, to me anyways, I think it's the best scoring they've ever had, and it might be their best chance. So I think the forward group is good. I mean, you could add a bottom 6 winger, I guess. They'll probably add a defenseman. I do think that while Jordy Ben's played well for them, I think they're ideally looking at him as a number 7. So it depends on how much longer Dumba's out. But yeah, and of course there's always the trade rumors about Dumba. It's interesting too because keep in mind that they've been connected to every single time that Brock Besser goes into a bit of a slump. You'll hear rumors about Minnesota. And Kevin Fiala being the one that gets tied to him a lot. Well, Fiala's an RFA this summer as well. I don't know that Minnesota right now would look at Besser for Fiala and say that's a fair 1-for-1. So Vancouver might have to throw an extra. And I'm only saying this because Fiala's on a run. But Fiala's run, I think, is directly tied to Boldy joining the lineup. As soon as Boldy comes into the lineup, Fiala gets better. So you may have some concerns about trading Fiala at the deadline if you're worried about Boldy maybe going a little bit cold, right? So I don't think there's any moves that get made with their top forwards before the deadline. Maybe at the draft table. Maybe as we get closer to free agency period, maybe we see some moves get made. The blue line, like I said, they probably add another top 6, but I will be curious to see with the goaltending if it holds up. Minnesota's a relatively easy team to look at when it comes to trade deadline because I think they're in pretty good shape. I don't think there's any reason to be concerned other than if this team goes into a first-round matchup with St. Louis, or let's say they drop into a wild card spot and they end up against Calgary, is that better for them? Would Minnesota prefer a matchup with Calgary over a matchup with St. Louis? Would they rather see Nashville go against St. Louis? So I do wonder, like, are they better off in third? Are they better off in a wild card spot? And if Minnesota is a team that we still look at and say, well, I don't think they beat St. Louis, and let's just say they keep third place and they lose to St. Louis in the first round, are we going to see this team as still being, one that's on the ups and they're rising? Or will Minnesota fans view the season as a disappointment? And I guess that's the question I have for Minnesota fans. This team has a very good record. They're playing very well, but if they lose in the first round of the playoffs, does that make this year a failure? Or do you look at it and say they've still got Kaprizov, they've got a lot of very, highly paid, highly talented players, they'll be fine? Or is this a season where you want to strike while the iron's hot? Because again, The Kaprizov, Hartman, Zuccarello line is proving that the Kaprizov, he's going to get really good money on his next contract as well. But it's a line that I don't know if you replicate this across multiple seasons. And so it might be important for Bill Guerin and the Minnesota Wild to try to really kind of beef things up and say they're going for it. Because while Colorado is the dominant favorite right now, and I think rightfully so, could Minnesota make the proper additions at the deadline? Could Minnesota beef themselves up enough that they're able to go on the first run they've gone on in almost 20 years, where they get to a conference final? Can they get there? And that's a question we don't know the answer to yet. We'll find out in a couple of months. But again, if I had to pay money on it, Minnesota to me looks like they could end up out in the first round again, which to me looks like a setback because you want this team to be, improving. The state of Minnesota could really use a win. I know, like, even for me, and I don't really watch basketball, but seeing the Minnesota Timberwolves with a good record has me thinking I'd love to see the Timberwolves win an NBA title. If the Timberwolves, I'd buy a jersey. I'd be excited, and that'd be great. And I'm not a basketball person, but I know how miserable it's been with the Timberwolves. And I know for the Twins in baseball exists as far as I know. I know they're still doing the lockout, but they're trying to work through it, I guess. But yeah, it's been a long time. And so Minnesota, the Wild here, they represent part of that too. And of course, if you're old enough, you remember the Minnesota North Stars, there's a lot of pain there too. I would like to see that pain end for Minnesota fans. Does this team get it done? Or are we going to again hear how next year is when things are really going to, do that in the playoffs, and they'll make a nice long run then. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. And in closing, what do you think Minnesota needs to do at the deadline if they need to do anything? Thank you guys so much for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.